Welcome to the WAN 2 lecture on splanchnology by Dr. Mansi. In this session, we will explore the fascinating world of internal organs. The mouth, or cavum orus, is the first section of the alimentary canal. It includes the oral cavity, proper oral cavity, vestibule, and various muscles and structures that aid in the initial stages of digestion. The palate is divided into the hard and soft palate, forming the roof of the mouth. It plays a crucial role in separating the oral and nasal cavities and aids in swallowing and speech. Tonsillar sinuses are located between the palatoglossal and palatopharyngeal arches. These sinuses house the tonsils, which are part of the immune system, helping to protect against infections. The mouths of horses and dogs have distinct features. Horses have more mobile lips and a more extensive soft palate, while dogs have a more extensive oral cavity and well-developed papillae. Pigs have extended angles of the mouth and a prominent hard palate, while fowls have a cone-shaped mouth with a coral slit extending longitudinally. The tongue is a vital organ for prehension, mastication, and deglutition. It has various types of papillae and muscles that aid in its complex movements and functions. The tongues of horses, dogs, pigs, and fowls have unique structures and features, each adapted to their specific dietary needs and functions. Teeth are composed of multiple layers, including enamel, dentin, and cementum. They play a crucial role in the mechanical breakdown of food. Different animals have various types of teeth, such as heterodont, brachydont, hypsodont, and diphyodont, each adapted to their dietary habits and needs. Dental formulas vary among species, with specific numbers of incisors, canines, premolars, and molars, reflecting their unique feeding behaviors. The pharynx is a crucial structure that connects the nasal and oral cavities to the larynx and esophagus. It plays a vital role in both respiration and digestion. The esophagus is a muscular tube that transports food from the mouth to the stomach. Its structure varies among species, with different lengths and muscle compositions. The esophagus in horses, dogs, and fowls has unique characteristics, such as length, muscle composition, and the presence of specific glands, reflecting their dietary needs. The abdominal cavity houses various vital organs and is divided into different regions. It extends from the diaphragm to the pelvic inlet and contains openings for major blood vessels and the esophagus. The paralumbar fossa is a triangular area below the lumbar vertebrae. The peritoneum is a sac that lines the abdominal cavity, with the greater and lesser omentum connecting various organs. The mesorectum connects the rectum to the pelvic cavity roof. Various peritoneal folds, such as the genital and vesicogenital folds, support and separate different organs within the pelvic cavity. The stomach, especially in ruminants, is a complex organ with multiple compartments, including the rumen, reticulum, omasum, and abomasum, each playing a specific role in digestion. Ruminants have a unique stomach structure with 4 compartments. The rumen and reticulum are involved in fermentation, while the omasum and abomasum aid in further digestion and absorption. The reticulum has a honeycomb structure, while the omasum is compressed and filled with folds. Both play essential roles in the digestive process of ruminants. The abomasum is the true stomach of ruminants, characterized by its elongated sac-like shape. It consists of 2 parts, the fundus and the pylorus. The fundus is located at the xiphoid region, and within the abomasum, 3 glandular areas can be observed. Cardiac glands are present close to the omaso-abomasal orifice, while fundic glands are found in the fundus, and pyloric glands in the pylorus. The abomasum also features 12 oblique folds in the fundus, which are thick, glossy, and reddish in color. The mucous membrane of the pyloric part lacks folds and has a wrinkled appearance. The fundic part of the abomasum lies on the xiphoid region. The horse's stomach is a simple, sac-like structure located on the left side of the median line. It is curved and J-shaped. At the left extremity, near the entrance of the esophagus, there is a rounded sac called the succus cecus. The mucous membrane is divided into non-glandular and glandular parts, separated by rough lines known as the margo plicatus. In dogs, the stomach is simple and piriform in shape, with 2 parts, the cardiac and pyloric. It has 2 curvatures and occupies the second and third abdominal spaces. The mucous membrane has glandular and non-glandular areas. Pigs have a comparatively larger stomach, resembling a human embryo, with a large fundus and a ridge like Taurus pyloricus. Fowls have a stomach with two distinct parts, the glandular proventriculus and the muscular gizzard, separated by the isthmus. The intestine is a long tube that begins at the pylorus and ends at the anus. The small intestine starts from the pylorus and terminates at the ileocecal orifice, with an average length of 20 meters in large animals. It consists of three parts, the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. The duodenum forms an S-shaped curve and has descending, ascending, and caudal flexure portions. Bile ducts open into the duodenum, and in sheep and goats, the bile duct and pancreatic duct join together before opening into the duodenum. The jejunum has closed coils in the form of U-shaped tubular loops attached by mesentery. It is the mobile part of the small intestine, occupying space between the right abdominal wall and the right side of the rumen. The largest number of villi are present in this section. The ileum is a thickened, uncoiled tube measuring 0.75 to 1 meter in length. The large intestine has a greater diameter at its beginning, which diminishes over its length. It comprises the scum, colon, and rectum. The scum is a blind sac with a capacity of 7 to 8 liters, located at the caudal right side, known as the apex. The colon has ascending, transverse, and descending parts, with various loops and flexures. The rectum has two portions, the cranial part covered by peritoneum and the caudal part, which is not. It is the terminal segment of the gastrointestinal tract, with an anal canal measuring 2.5 centimeters in length. The mucous folds of the cranial part form anal columns, and the internal circular muscles form the sphincter ani internus. The levator ani muscles and blood supply from the caudal mesenteric artery are also significant. This slide shows the comparative structure of the large intestines in various animals, including ox, horse, dog, pig, rabbit, and fowl. Each species has unique anatomical features in their large intestines, which are highlighted in the diagram. The horse's intestine includes the duodenum, jejunum, ileum, and scum. The duodenum is 1 meter long, with the pancreatic and bile ducts opening into it. The jejunum and ileum are 6 to 7 meters long, with the ileum being the last part of the small intestine. The scum is comma-shaped, 1.2 meters long, and has a capacity of 30 liters. It is located at the abdominal floor close to the xiphoid cartilage. The great colon in horses is divided into the right dorsal, right ventral, and left ventral colons. It has a length of 3 to 3.5 meters and includes the pelvic flexure, sternal flexure, and diaphragmatic flexure. In dogs, the bile duct and small pancreatic duct open directly into the duodenum. The jejunum is 7 to 8 coils long, and the ileum opens into the scum. The rectum is covered by peritoneum. In rabbits, the duodenum has a descending part, and the scum is large with a vermiform appendix. The ileum opens into the scum directly. In fowls, the duodenum has ascending and descending parts held together by a field of mesentery. The jejunum has a short cecal remnant called Meckel's diverticulum. The ceca are paired and have three parts, proximal, middle, and distal. The colorectum is the terminal part of the intestine, leading to the cloaca. The salivary glands include the parotid, mandibular, and sublingual glands. The parotid gland is triangular and reddish-brown, with Stenson's duct opening near the upper jaw. The mandibular gland is elongated and yellowish, located along the angle of the mandible. The sublingual gland has two parts, superior and inferior, with the superior part being lobulated and the inferior part being pink-colored. In horses, the parotid gland is the largest, with the mandibular gland being longer. Dogs have a parotid gland opposite the upper third and fourth premolars, and a mandibular gland larger than the parotid. Fowls have several salivary glands, including maxillary, palatine, and lingual glands, which open into the pharynx. The liver is located on the right side of the abdominal cavity, extending from the 7th to 8th rib. It has two surfaces and four borders, with the hepatic diverticulum developing from the ventral surface. The parietal surface is convex and attaches to the diaphragm, while the visceral surface is concave and presents impressions of various organs. The liver's lesser omentum attaches it to the omasum, pyloric end of the abomasum, and parts of the duodenum and pancreas. The caudate lobe is connected to the right kidney, aiding in renal impression. The liver has dorsal, ventral, lateral, and medial borders, with the caudate lobe and renal impression being significant features. The liver has 3 to 5 hepatic veins that open directly into the vena cava. The smaller hepatic duct exits the liver, forming the common hepatic duct with the cystic duct. The gallbladder is a pear-shaped sac that stores bile, which is then released into the duodenum. The liver is supported by several ligaments, including the falciform, right lateral, left lateral, coronary, and caudate ligaments. It receives 80% of its blood from the portal vein and 20% from the hepatic artery. The liver's blood supply is divided into nutritional and functional components. In horses, the liver has an extra left lateral ligament connecting it to the diaphragm. It has 3 main lobes and a caudate lobe. In dogs, the gallbladder is situated in a depression of the right lobe, with the caudate lobe having a papillary process. In pigs, the liver has 4 main lobes and a small caudate lobe. Rabbits have 5 lobes, with the right lateral lobe having a renal impression. Fowls have 2 separate lobes connected by a peritoneal fold, with the right lobe having a large gallbladder. The pancreas is located on the right side of the median plane, attached to the liver by mesentery. It has a reddish-yellow color and a flat, irregular quadrilateral shape. The pancreas has 4 borders and 2 surfaces, with the dorsal surface attached to the diaphragm and liver, and the ventral surface related to the stomach and intestines. The posterior border is notched for the portal vein, and the left border is irregular and convex. Histologically, it consists of serous and tubulo-acinar glands. Different animals have variations in the shape and structure of their pancreas. For example, the horse's pancreas is roughly triangular, while the dog's pancreas consists of 2 branched parts. The pig's pancreas is flat and elongated, and the fowl's pancreas is elongated and yellowish red. Each animal's pancreas has unique features and connections to the duodenum. The spleen is a hemolymph organ weighing around 900 grams. It filters blood and lymph and forms red blood cells and lymphocytes after birth. The spleen is elliptical in shape, with 2 ends, 2 surfaces, and 2 borders. It is related to the diaphragm and the left surface of the rumen. The spleen's shape and structure vary among different animals. For instance, the horse's spleen is sickle-shaped, the dog's spleen has a human footprint shape, the pig's spleen is elongated, and the fowl's spleen is small and round. Each animal's spleen has unique anatomical features and functions. The respiratory system includes the nose and nasal cavity, which have external openings called nares. The nasal septum is formed by cartilage and bone, and the nasal cavity is divided into dorsal and ventral turbinates. The major portion of the nasal cavity is occupied by the turbinate bones. The nasal cavity has 3 spaces beneath each turbinate: dorsal, ventral, and middle meatus. The middle meatus is divided into 2 by the ethmoturbinate bone. The nasal cavity communicates with the frontal sinus and other sinuses. The vomeronasal organ is located near the nasal septum and opens on either side of the papilla incisiva. The larynx is a musculocartilaginous compartment between the pharynx and trachea. It consists of several cartilages, including the thyroid, cricoid, arytenoid, and epiglottis. The larynx is involved in voice production and protects the airway during swallowing. The laryngeal cavity extends from the entrance of the larynx to the caudal border of the cricoid cartilage. It includes the vestibule, rema glottidis, and caudal compartment. The laryngeal muscles control the movement of the vocal cords and the opening and closing of the laryngeal cavity. The trachea consists of 50-60 cartilages in the form of incomplete rings. The cervical part extends from the larynx to the thoracic inlet, while the thoracic part extends to the level of the third intercostal space. The tracheal rings are C-shaped in dogs and O-shaped in fowl. The thoracic cavity is formed by the thoracic inlet, ribs, and diaphragm. It contains the lungs and heart, and is lined by a serous membrane called the pleura. The pleura has 2 layers, the parietal pleura and the visceral pleura, which enclose the lungs and form the pleural sacs. The mediastinum is the space between the right and left pleural sacs. It extends from the thoracic inlet to the diaphragm and is divided into cranial, middle, and caudal parts. The heart occupies the middle part of the mediastinum. The lungs are the main organs of respiration. Each lung is conical in shape and divided into lobes by fissures. The right lung is larger than the left and has more lobes. The lungs are responsible for gas exchange and are essential for breathing. The right lung has an apical lobe ventilated by a separate bronchus called the apical bronchus. The left lung has a cardiac notch and is larger in the form of an L shape. The cardiac compression is deeper in the right lung. The bronchial tree consists of the trachea, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, and tertiary bronchi. The lungs receive blood supply from the pulmonary artery and bronchial arteries. The bronchial tree is responsible for conducting air to the lungs. Different animals have variations in their respiratory systems. For example, the horse has a larger nasal cavity, while the dog's trachea has extra cartilage. The pig's right lung has 4 lobes, and the fowl's trachea has complete cartilaginous rings. Each animal's respiratory system has unique features. The urinary system includes the kidneys, ureters, bladder, and urethra. The kidneys are located in the sublumbar region and are embedded in a large amount of fat. The left kidney is slightly shorter and thicker than the right kidney. The kidneys are responsible for filtering blood and producing urine. The left kidney's position varies depending on the fullness of the rumen. When the rumen is full, the kidney is pushed backward and down. The left kidney lies below the third, fourth, and fifth lumbar vertebrae. It has 3 surfaces: dorsal, ventral, and lateral. The cortex and medulla of the kidney have distinct structures. The cortex contains renal tubules and Malpighian corpuscles, while the medulla has renal pyramids and columns of Bertini. The calyx minor opens into the larger calyx major, which forms the ureter. The renal pelvis is absent. In sheep and goats, the kidneys are bean-shaped and smooth. They are similar to the kidneys of oxen but are more regular in shape. The right kidney lies further back and is protected by fat. The kidneys are responsible for filtering blood and maintaining fluid balance. The horse's kidneys are smooth and not lobulated, with the right kidney being more cranial than the left. The right kidney is heart-shaped, while the left is bean-shaped. The right kidney is situated under the vertebral end of the last 2 or 3 ribs and the first lumbar transverse processes, while the left one is under the last rib and the first 2 or 3 lumbar transverse processes. The dorsal surface of the right kidney is convex and related closely to the diaphragm, whereas the ventral surface is concave and related to the liver, pancreas, scum, and adrenal gland. The hilus leads into the renal sinus, and the inner central part of the medulla forms a concave ridge known as the renal crest, which presents numerous openings called the area cribrosa. Pig kidneys are smooth and bean-shaped, more elongated, and almost symmetrically placed. The right kidney has no contact with the liver, and the hilus is at the middle of the medial border. Each kidney has 2 calyces major and about a dozen calyces minor. Dog kidneys are smooth and bean-shaped, with the right kidney situated under the bodies of the first 3 lumbar vertebrae. The left kidney is at the level of the second, third, and fourth lumbar vertebrae. The hilus is about the middle of the medial border, and the medulla shows a renal crest. Rabbit kidneys are smooth and bean-shaped, with the right kidney situated below the last rib and first 2 lumbar transverse processes. The left kidney is placed below the bodies of the second and third lumbar vertebrae. Rabbit kidneys are unipyramidal. Fowl kidneys are brown, elongated structures lying along each side of the vertebral column from the 6th rib into the iliac fossa. They are made up of 3 or 4 lobes and are not well defined, with rough surfaces due to the projected renal tubules. The ureter of the ox emerges from the hilus of the right kidney, runs inwards, and gains the middle of the medial border. The left ureter emerges from the hilus on the anterolateral aspect, crosses over the face medially, and runs backward. Each ureter consists of abdominal and pelvic parts. The pelvic part passes backward and downward, turning inward and piercing the superior wall of the bladder. In males, it enters the genital fold and crosses the vas deferens, while in females, it is situated in the dorsal part of the broad ligament of the uterus. Species differences in ureters are notable. Sheep and goat ureters resemble those of oxen, arising from the renal pelvis. Horse ureters arise from the renal pelvis and are slightly flexuous. Pig ureters gradually diminish in caliber. Dog ureters resemble those of oxen. Rabbit ureters start from the hilus and terminate at the dorsal aspect of the bladder. Fowl ureters are wide, divided into renal and pelvic parts, and open into the urodum of the cloaca. The urinary bladder of the ox is a musculo-membranous sac with three parts: vertex, body, and neck. The vertex is a blind end with a rounded cul-de-sac called the cicatrix, forming a connection between the bladder and the allantois in the fetus. The body is rounded and flattened from above downwards, with two surfaces that are convex when full. The neck is the caudal narrow extremity that joins the urethra. The ventral surface of the bladder is related to the floor of the pelvis, while the dorsal surface in males is related to the rectum, genital fold, and terminal parts of the vas deferens, seminal vesicle, and prostate. In females, it is related to the body of the uterus and vagina. The bladder is fixed by three peritoneal folds, with the middle ligament extending from the ventral face to the floor of the pelvis and abdomen. The lateral ligaments are extensive and reach the umbilicus. The caudal part has no peritoneal covering and is attached to surrounding parts by fat and connective tissue. The mucous membrane is pale, thin, and loosely attached to the submucous tissue, forming numerous folds when empty and contracted. The bladder structures of horses, dogs, pigs, and rabbits vary. In horses, the bladder is smaller and does not extend up to the abdominal cavity. In dogs, it extends considerably when distended. In pigs, the bladder is comparatively large, while in rabbits, it is elongated. In birds, there is no bladder. The ureters open directly into the urodum of the cloaca. Give your comments, suggestions, and like, share, and subscribe to GNP Sir Classes official channel. Thanks.